Hey guys, Mr. Neese is going to talk to you now about 19B. Let me read it to you. Evaluate the impact of relationships among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, including Franklin D. Roosevelt's attempt to increase the number of U.S. Supreme Court justices in the presidential election of 2000. So, keeping in mind, we got three branches: executive, judicial, legislative. Judicial being headed by the Supreme Court at the top, executive by the president at the top. There are checks and balances, but we also believe in separation of powers. So Franklin Roosevelt, during his New Deal era and trying to create all these reforms, was very frustrated because some of the laws and acts that they were trying to get through to help those in need, people who were unemployed through the Depression, were getting struck down by the Supreme Court. So Franklin Roosevelt tried to increase the number of justices on the Supreme Court, and by increasing the number of justices, he will put in people who will be favorable to what he wants done. Therefore, when they make a decision, there's more people voting for him. So that's an example of the executive branch trying to influence the judicial branch in this case, and that got some, he got some pushback on that, even within his own party, which made it harder for him to pass stuff in the legislative branch, which is where Congress is. He had trouble getting, even within his own party, people to pass legislation because of some of the things he was trying to do to the judicial branch. So, presidential election of 2000. We have candidates George W. Bush and we have Al Gore. Now, George Bush is Republican, Al Gore is Democrat. And the election comes down to the count in Florida. Whoever gets the Florida electoral votes is going to win the election. That's how close it was. And then in Florida, it was so close, it's down to a few hundred votes. And it's forcing now a recount because there were some potential issues within some of these counties and what counted as a vote or what didn't count as a vote. So Bush wins narrowly by just a few votes, but it's now being challenged in the courts, and it'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to say, nope, you can't do the recount. Basically, the logic is it's to provide a fair and equitable way of doing it. There wasn't a fair and equitable way to do a recount. There's all these different counties trying to recount their own way. That's not right, so the count stands as it is, and therefore George W. Bush won. And that influences policy. Now a Republican is president for the next 4 years, where it could have been a Democrat, which also means if Bush appoints justices to the Supreme Court, that can influence the court by who he appoints versus who Al Gore would have appointed. So that's some of the nuances of how they interact. Hopefully that helps you with the understanding of 19B.